That's Jose. Jose, can you just please mute yourself?
Rona, let me just be the only one talking so we don't get all talking out of turn. I appreciate what you said, but just okay. Gretchen? Here. Everyone turn off. Put yourself on mute. Okay, Mariah? Marianne?
Here.
Jose? Derek?
Present.
Rona? Unmute to say yes.
I did. Here.
Okay. Cece? Quanice?
Present.
Thank you. Stacy?
Okay, I'm here. Sorry, Cece's here.
Here. Stacy's here.
Wonderful, Stacy. Hi. Natalie? Natalie? Cora? Cora's there. I see.
Yes, it's on mute.
Okay. Kimber? Me. So missing was Natalie? Kimber? Jose? Mariah? Alma? Okay, we do have a quorum. This is a special meeting of the commission called by the chairperson of the commission in accordance with DC Official Code 39-205B. The purpose of this special meeting is the discussion and consideration of the agency's strategic plan for an update from finance and award recommendations from the grants committee. This meeting is held in open session in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Notice of the meeting was posted on the agency's website and on the Office of Open Government's online central meeting calendar. If we have any members of the public joining us today, we welcome you. Before we proceed, I'd like to read the Land Acknowledgement. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hopes of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We stand on the ancestral lands of the Nacotchtank and the Piscataway people. We pay respects to the violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that brings us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events and to use such truths to guide the legacy of this Arts Commission. Thank you. And now I'm going to call on Acting Executive Director Haran to give us her report.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's not so much a report as a request for the commission to consider this amendment / extension, short extension on our strategic plan. As many of you know, we do have as a state arts agency of the National Endowment for the Arts, we're required to have an active strategic plan for the agency, and we report annually on the progress of this plan to the NEA as part of our partnership. Our 5-year CAH current strategic plan expires at the end of September, and we are thinking that the next thing we'll be working on is a new 3-year strategic plan. But the plan was to work on it even from, earlier this year, and the COVID public health emergency and the sort of the transitions of the senior leadership at the agency have not allowed for that to happen in a timely way. And so we consulted with the NEA on getting an extension, a temporary extension for this current strategic plan. And so the recommendations for this temporary extension includes elements that we think between now and then would be good sort of goals for the agency to set. And by the end of the year, we would have a new strategic plan in place to submit to the NEA. And so I know you received the amendment request a little late last night, but they are detailed down below, and they look at about 4 different areas that we're sort of setting as benchmarks between now and when the new strategic plan comes into play. And so I'll stop there and just maybe listen to people's thoughts and or see if there's a discussion on it.
The only concern I have, Haran, is that that it's okay with NEA. That
It is. It is. We confirmed that with this before the commission.
right.
They're in agreement that we can. If the commission agrees to this, we can put it, we can hold off on a new strategic plan if this one is extended in time.
Mhm.
Do we
I
have
think
that in
there's-
writing from the NEA?
Do we have it in writing?
Correct.
We may. Yeah, we had a call, and we may have followed it up with an email. I can go look. But there, we kind of agreed on, we would present this to the commission. If they agreed, then we would present this recommendation back to NEA in time for this application cycle.
Great.
Did you all send out the strategic plan? I don't think I've ever seen this document.
Same.
It's on the website. Is this Quanice who asked?
Yes.
Oh, hey, Quanice. Yeah, it's on our website. It always lives on the website.
Also sent out to the task force group last week.
The last one, the most current one, is finished about, I think that's right, 5, maybe 5. And
2015, right? Yeah.
yeah, and it's been living there ever since. Does anybody else have any questions about this proposal? This idea that we extend the strategic plan?
Is there a committee who's working on the plan?
Eventually it will be a consultant that works with the commissioners and with the agency and with other stakeholders
In the community?
from the community.
Yeah, it's driven by the agency.
Got it. Okay.
Wait, so how long is the extension? Because I know you said you're extending it, but how long?
We're extending it until June 30th of 21. Anticipate, hopefully we'll have a consultant on board and we can get going sooner than that. The extension would be for a year though.
Yeah, but it often takes at least 6 months to a year to create one, right?
Right.
Right. We have to bid for it and go through the OCP process and so on.
Well, I think it's great. We'll already have a head start because we'll already have, by that time, task force recommendations to feed into it. Perfect.
Do you want a recommendation for a vote then? Ron?
Yes, please. And
So
actually, I'm
someone-
glad you said that, Gretchen. So the one other piece we've already begun working on is also the public art master plan off of this list of 4 things. And the CEP, the Center for Effective Philanthropy survey has already been completed, and we're looking to go into a second phase with that. So a few of these things we're already working on, which is to say we'll get to the end point in good time.
Does someone want to make a recommendation that we adopt this extension to the strategic plan?
So moved.
Does someone want to second it?
Second.
Thank you all. Is there any discussion? I'll call for a vote. Alma? Alma? Are you voting for or against the? Someone's got ambient noise again. Please be mindful. Alma, can you hear me? I see you, Alma, but I don't know if you can hear me.
I'm wondering if her audio is not connected.
It must not be.
Yeah.
Okay, Gretchen,
Yes.
Marianne,
Yes.
Jose, Derek? Derek, do you want to vote yes or no?
Yes.
Rona?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Rona?
Yes.
Cece?
Yes.
Juanice?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Cora? Cora?
Oh, just a minute. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. What about me? I'm
Are you
here.
voting yes or no on the extension of the strategic plan?
Whatever Gretchen said, that's what I'm doing.
Then you voted yes.
Okay, great.
Is there anyone who I did not call on who would like to vote? Okay, we have the majority, and so that passes, Haran. So you're good. You're good to go. The next item on the agenda is going to be CC, who's going to just give a quick update on finances.
Hi, everyone. Had a quick, my video's off because I'm told that if you turn the video off, you might have better connection. And so my connection is not great. So hopefully this will help. I spoke briefly with Kay, David, Haran, and Brian earlier this week. I believe we are still waiting on some final numbers, but it appears that there's good news and that there will be extra money left over from FY20 for, I believe it was field trips and unused salary monies to be redistributed I believe there will be recommendations made later on how to redistribute that. But I just wanted to hand over to either Haran or Brian to see if there were any updates as far as details, where we are on that, when we might hear. I know it's all kind of a waiting game. So that's all I have right now. But if there are any updates, I think Haran has.
Thank you, Cece. No real updates. We are using some of, as Cece mentioned, some of the vacancy savings money, and I think there will be a little bit more money to work with in a couple of weeks, or 2 to 3 weeks. Some money that we think will come back from an intra-district program that wasn't able to be conducted. This is the study abroad program with Aussie, and so. I'll wait until Gretchen proposes what the grant scheme had in mind about the additional monies going out the door. But no real updates at this time.
Well, it's good to know what if there is money. Later, we'll have another special meeting. We have enough now to want to get it out the door to warrant this meeting. So with that, Gretchen, I'll turn the meeting over to you to give recommendations.
Wait, can I just ask a question? This is Juanice.
Yes.
Gretchen,
Yes.
Gretchen, can you just remind us of the fiscal year 21 programs? Is field trips a part of that? Because I don't remember. You're on mute.
Field trips is no longer a part of the 21 budget.
Right.
This is actually money that was designated to Aussie for an international study abroad program, and because they didn't conduct the program in this fiscal year, they will be required, after their expenses are accounted for, to turn the money back to us.
But
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
we don't have it in 21, not at all.
Does that answer your question, Quanice?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Because I was like, oh, if we have, okay, thank
Right, exactly. And I didn't know we did international field trips, but this is, like she said, an intra-district program.
Right.
Uh,
Well,
okay.
the good news about this is that we discussed this not only at the grants committee meeting, but actually at the previous full commission meeting, and we voted on it. Voted on it, meaning that if we had additional people that were still in the NEA CARES program, that money that we find could be given to those individuals that were still left unfunded. So we originally had about 502 individuals. We funded 134. David and the team have really jumped ahead on this one, and they have vetted an additional 232 of the total number. So right now, with the money we think we have, and I say think because we haven't gotten the money back through interagency transfer for the international field trips, we think we'll be able to fund an additional 200 people from that original list. And like I said, that was discussed and voted on at one of the commission meetings. So I would like to make a recommendation, and I'm just going to read it. In order to provide a measure of immediate financial relief to district artists, the Grants Committee recommends the following resolution be adopted. Resolved that the Commission award emergency relief grants of $2,500 each to the 330 eligible individual applicants to the FY20 NEA CARES Act grant program that did not previously receive grants under that program. Grants will be made utilizing CAH funds as available in the order in which applications were originally received, and will continue until either all applicants are funded or available CAH funding is depleted, whichever occurs first. Grantees will be expected to comply with all requirements presented in the original request for applications. Madam Chairperson, on behalf of the committee, I move to adopt the resolution just read.
Great.
We don't have it in writing, though. Is that correct? We don't have this in writing anywhere?
I don't know. I didn't look at the last package that was sent.
No, it's
Could
just
you
your
say-
report.
Could,
It's in a report, but I don't know if that was included.
could
I
you
don't-
just say how many
I don't think so.
grants we would be giving? I don't
Okay.
think it was in the report, no.
Okay.
No, it wasn't.
We started off with 502 individuals who applied.
Okay,
Funded 134.
okay,
David and the team have now vetted an additional 232, meaning they met the requirements to be funded. So
okay.
now we think with the money we have and what we expect from the interagency transfer on the international field trips, we will be able to fund an additional 200 people from the list.
Gretchen, I'm sorry if I may. We think right now, very immediately, we can do 80 to 100. But what we're asking for is the, sort of the approval of the commission to continue to work off of that list as money comes in, so that we can just keep it on a rolling basis. We can keep funding this next batch of applicants or vetted
Right,
applicants.
and if we get extra money, then we'll peel down the list even more. So by the time we finish, hopefully everybody on that particular list will have gotten their $2,500.
Correct.
There's expectation that the money will be coming in and that we will be able to complete the list of qualified applicants. And that means all the individuals that applied for grants under the NEA CARES Act will get funded.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really good. I recommend that we adopt the resolution?
I think it's been done, and so all we have.
So, okay.
So I'm going to call the roll again. Alma,
Yes.
Gretchen,
Yes?
Marianne,
Yes,
Derek. Derek,
Yes.
Rona,
Yes.
Cece,
Yes.
Quanice,
Yes.
yeah, Stacy,
Absolutely.
Cora, are you going to vote with
Okay.
Gretchen? Are you going to vote with Gretchen?
No, on behalf of me, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes for me.
Okay. And no, I don't. So again, if I missed anyone, Mariah, Jose, Natalie, or Kimber, are you on? Okay, well, it's unanimous for everyone who's on. Great. Gretchen, you have a second part of your report.
You're muted, Gretchen.
Thank you, Cece. I hope some of you had a chance to review this because it's a little complicated. I'm going to try to make it easy, but the Excel spreadsheets are a bit difficult to read because there's so much information on them. And I just want everybody to know the grants committee actually met 3 times to iron this out because we were concerned that the formulas that we applied were fair to everyone. With the GOS, does everyone have the sheet, not the Excel spreadsheet, but the sheet that talks about GOS?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so the General Operating Support Program offers funding to nonprofit arts, humanities, arts education organizations. The mission, as submitted on the organization's most recent IRS form 990, must include the words arts, humanities, and/or arts or humanities discipline. Currently, organizations must demonstrate that more than 51% of both their previous year's cash expenses and programming services are devoted to the arts and humanities and/or arts education. The eligibility parameters of GOS grant will be reviewed for the FY22 cycle. Applicants had to choose from one of the following 3 categories: generalist, service organizations, and NACOC. Obviously, they had to be in there, but for our scoring purposes and for our award recommendations, we took out NACOC so that we could look just at the applicants that were not part of that organization. One of the big things that we talked about was because times are so hard for everybody, we really wanted to make it fair. And GOS is the one grant that can be used so widely for different things. So the grants committee is actually recommending that we fund all the applicants this time. That's a first for us. And there was discussion and unanimous agreement that we fund all of the applicants. Dave, no, I guess, can you take us through the spreadsheet? Can that be put up on the screen?
Yeah, I can share the spreadsheet if you want. I just didn't know if people wanted to see each other. Yeah, I can share the screen if that's what you want.
Yeah, please. We all know what we look like.
Okay, so I have the spreadsheet here. I think you guys can see it, right?
Yeah.
Which cohort do you guys want to go to?
Let's start off with cohort 1.
Okay, so is this?
Can everybody see that?
Can everyone see this?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay. So, David, do you want to take us through the sheet, or do you want me to continue?
Sure, I can start, and if you want to jump in, Gretchen, I know we've been looking at this a lot, and as Gretchen said, the grants committee met 3 times to go through it. When we established GOS 5 years ago, one of the goals was to provide some sort of stability to arts and humanities organizations. Previously, there'd been this, huge roller coaster-like fluctuation from one year to the next. And so what you see on this spreadsheet is if you look at the column F and column I, they're shaded in green and peach. What we're doing is we're comparing the ranking of an organization from one year to the next. And so from that ranking, it's not quite, we can't quite make a sort of a simple calculation from that. We have to use a formula to create a variance. And that's what you see in column L. And based on that variance, whether it's a plus or a minus, that determines what increase or decrease an organization receives from one year to the next. So to give you an example, if you'd like to look at line 5, which is organization number 3, thank you. While you can't see the total number of applicants that were in the cohort, you can see that this year they landed in 3rd place, whereas last year they landed in 16th place. So they did much better, which shows this 38.46 positive variance. Last year, for FY20, we awarded them $55,000, and because they did much better this year, we plan to fund them an additional $11,000.
Does the column show for the actual amount, for the 21 amount?
For the, what was the last thing you said, Gretchen?
The amount we want to fund them. I can't.
Yeah, Patrick, do you mind scrolling over to the right so we can see the other side of the spreadsheet?
Yeah,
thanks.
Okay, thanks.
So if you see columns O, P, Q, and R, this is where the grants committee weighed in and how to calculate how much, how many additional dollars they received, or if there were a negative variance, what sort of reduction in funding they might receive. And so you'll see here, for example, in column O, if there was less than 10 points, either a plus or a minus variance of 10 points, their award would increase or decrease by $5,000. And so on. In column P, if the variance were greater between 10% or 10 and 25 points, then it would be a plus or minus $10,000. What we did, we wanted to have a safety net of sorts, because again, as I said, one of the purposes of this grant is to provide some stability to the arts community. That over in the far right-hand column, column U, you should see this is our safety net. So what we decided to do was use a 20% increase or decrease as the safety net, so that if an organization fared, let's take an example of, if we look at line 10, which this was an organization that has a negative of 56, which is pretty significant. And so if we were to apply the formula that instead of receiving a $71,000 award, which they received this year, their award would drop to $51,000 based on the $20,000. And so we sort of alleviated a little bit or minimized the decrease by applying the 20% rule, which is the lesser. And we implied it as if it were a positive or a negative. Again, the whole idea is to try and flatten, I never thought I'd use this term in this, flatten the curve. We used to use it before it became a popular term. So that it's less of a roller coaster and more of an undulating wave. But it still means that wherever the organizations land in the rankings still holds importance.
The other thing is the two blue, I think there are two on this page. The blue ones are
yes.
organizations that are brand new applicants to GOS. And so according to our guidelines, they will receive $60,000 each.
Right. That's sort of like an onboarding amount that we've used in the past for new organizations. The cohorts were split into there were 6 groups total. One of them was service organizations. They were paneled separately. And then the cohorts, as you'll see at the bottom, the tabs, it shows you the range of the budget ranges for each cohort. Cohorts 4 and 5 are the smallest, the organizations with the smallest budgets. And as we looked at the numbers with the grants committee, we noticed that the increases and decreases were much more significant. Even a 10% or 20% or a 20% increase or decrease was pretty significant.
Excuse me, Patrick, let's go over to the cohort that David's speaking
about. Sure. Patrick, do you want to look at cohort 4?
4.
Okay, and then let me just move it back there.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah. And if you can move it again a little bit to the right, that would be great. Super. Is this number 4? I think it's back on number 1.
No,
this is 1. We need 4.
The tab at the bottom.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah.
So what we found with these organizations that had smaller budgets was that, as I said, even the 20% safety net was still pretty impactful. And so what we decided to do was to change that to a 10% increase or decrease to some of these organizations. If you take a look at line 15, again, that was an organization that did not rank as highly this year as it had last year. And so if we were to apply it's 50 minus 51, that we would go to column R, which means that it would the reduction would be $20,000, which would mean that we'd be almost halving their award. Their award this year was $44,000. And so even when we applied the 20% rule, an $8,000 reduction or a $9,000 reduction on a $44,000 award is pretty significant. So that's why with the 2 cohorts with the smallest budgets, we decided to apply the 10% rule.
Right, and I want to thank Alma and Derek for really honing in on cohorts 4 and 5 just to make sure that things were equaled out. So let's go back to, we looked at 1. Let's go back so everybody can at least look at 1 again. There we go. Can we see all of 1?
Still number 4. There we go.
Oh, good.
That's number 4.
Let me just switch that. Is that?
Yeah.
That's much better, Patrick.
That's everybody. That's perfect. Yeah.
So what you see if you look at the column N as in Nancy, line 17, you'll see the total amount of dollars we spent in this cohort for FY20. And then if you go across to column S, as in Sam, line 17, you'll see the total dollar amount we are proposing we spend this coming year, FY21. And Patrick, if you scroll down a little bit further, there should be, and over to the left, sorry.
To the left and down, there's a tally at the bottom.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there.
And just over a little bit to the left. To the left, to the left. Thanks. So what we did was we added up the totals for each of the 6 cohorts, and we came to this $5.7 million figure. For FY20, the figure came to just under $5.5 million. So it would be a little bit more than we spent in FY20.
David?
Yes.
Could you just while we're looking at that box, it might be illuminating to say cohort 1 stands for X, cohort 2 stands for Y.
Oh, the dollar amounts. Yeah.
Well, we see the dollar amounts, but what is
I mean the dollar amounts that define
right.
the cohort.
You mean the size of the organizations?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they correlate. If you can see the bottom of the screen, you can see the tabs, and so cohort.
Oh, I see. I see.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Cohort 1 is organizations with budgets over $2.5 million. Cohort 2 are budgets from $1 million to 2.2, and there were no organizations with budgets between 2.2 million and 2.5. Usually, when we split them into cohorts, we look at the whole group and we try to look for those sort of breaks, significant breaks. Similarly, with cohort 3, that was between 500,000 992. Cohort 4 went from 244 to 411, so there were no organizational budgets between 411,000 and 500,000, and so on. And then the smallest, the cohort with the organization's smallest budget was cohort 5, which was $16,000 to 200.
What I want to do, I don't want to confuse everybody. I want everybody to get a chance to look at each cohort. So let's go back to 1 where we show the number of scroll up a little bit. So we see the organization, that one. I want to show that one for each cohort. That's cohort 1, which we've been looking at quite a bit. Let's look at cohort 2. We need to.
And, yeah, Patrick, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Everybody can see that. And you'll see in the first one over to the right under column U in notes, this organization may matriculate into CAH this coming year, which would mean we would move them out, and the monies that are assigned to them, the $110,000, would be folded back into GOS and dispersed among the remaining organizations.
Right.
When do you know that?
So I was informed that the organization had heard in June that they were going to be part of the Commission on Fine Arts. That's one of the conditions of them being part of the National Capital Arts cohort, that they have to be in that federal cohort. We're in the process of reaching out to all of the National Capital Arts cohort to ask them for their most recent 3 years of 990s. Most of them submitted them with their applications, but these applications came in February. So we would not have had their 2019 990s, so we're circling back to them. And we'll go back to this organization too, so we have their 990s, and we can make sure that they meet all of the requirements to participate.
Excuse me, David. Excuse me.
What is that?
Someone has to mute.
Mute your phones, please. Mute your phones. Thank you.
Kay, I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
David, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble on my computer seeing this. How much would this organization get from us?
The one I just mentioned that may
The one we're
matriculate
talking
into.
about that may become part of NACOC.
Okay, so if you look at column S, you'll see that.
110,000.
Yeah, so it's that's based on the formula. They received $105,000 from us for FY20. They did slightly better, so their award would go up to $110,000.
Okay, so they would get 110 from us, and if they join NACOC, they give us our money and they get 300,000 from NACOC. Is that it?
No, they essentially they would no longer have claim to the $110,000, and they would only receive funds through NACOC. So the $110,000 would go back into this pot of applicants, and we would redisperse it.
It's not what I'm saying is, I understand they won't get our money, but what it means is they would just get the automatic 300 that everyone in NACOC gets. So they would get a whole lot more by joining.
They would, yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I think it's pretty much a done deal for them. It just hasn't been officially announced.
Gretchen, if I may, sorry guys, this is Iran. Another thing to keep in mind is that these formulas or these outcomes, these award outcomes, are what we would announce to GOS recipients on October 1st. We are preparing to send letters of intent to fund sooner than that. And so between the letters of intent to fund and the actual notification of award, there is time for these pieces to be worked out so that the amounts would gel better by October 1st. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Right. And to piggyback.
Could I just ask a question, please? if that 110 is returned and not used because they go into NACACA, how is that 110 going to be distributed among the other organizations? Or what will happen to it? I mean, will it just increase everybody in that cohort's grant? Or
no, we would use a formula to distribute it among all of the organizations. There's 111. Sorry.
Ask the question, please.
Yes, of course.
Is it automatic that we redistribute them, or is it possible that we could have another project that we could fund for that time?
So there's a couple of unknowns at the moment. One of them is that we still, while we have currently assigned $5.7 million to this particular, the GOS applications, we still don't know what our final budget is going to be. And that's why you'll see in column T is blank. So all of these figures could increase, should we, as the commission, decide that we can give or put in an additional $1 million into the GOS pot, then all of these awards would increase.
Okay. So in other words, we have options.
Yeah,
yes.
We have options. Yep.
David, I have another question. I looked through all the cohorts and I see that we only have four organizations from Ward 7. We have 10 from Ward 8. And I'm wondering, is it the 4 organizations because we didn't get as many grant applicants, or is it because we had a lot that did not qualify?
Are you looking across all cohorts or at one specific?
All cohorts, all the cohorts. Yeah, I looked to see how many we gave to 7. We gave 4 to 7, and we gave 10 to Ward 8.
So Marianne, my understanding of what I know of Ward 7 is that Ward 7 is more residential than Ward 8. I live in Ward 4, for example, and there are not a whole ton of arts organizations in Ward 4. It's primarily residential. Everybody who applied to the program this year is represented on these spreadsheets.
Okay.
And so we did not exclude anyone from.
Okay.
You're seeing everybody who applied.
So we just didn't get as many applications from Ward 7 as we did from other wards.
Correct. And
right.
Cora might be able to weigh in, but my understanding is that there are fewer arts and humanities organizations located in Ward 7.
Well, there are more in Ward 8, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the good news is no matter what ward you're in, if you applied, our recommendation is that we give you the money.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful news.
Yeah, that's good.
I do have a question. I know, David, you talked about the 20% and then reducing it for those who are in a lower budget amount to 10%. Was that consideration given for cohort number 6? Because I see there's some decreases with folks who have, like, for example, with cohort 6, who was number 9 out of 10, their budget was $91,000. And there was a 20%.
Let's go over to cohort 6 so we can all see what Quanice is talking about.
That's a good point, Quanice. Cohort 6 is their organizations that identify as service organizations. So they don't necessarily produce programming, but they offer services or provide services to arts and humanities organizations. So they're not lumped together based on budget size, but on how they identify in terms of the work they do. Patrick, do you mind scrolling over to the right so we can see? So yes, we applied the 20% across here. That is something we could go back to and look at, that based on the budget size of these organizations, that it could be a mixture of the 20% and the 10%, depending on their budget size.
Yeah, because that $91,000 organization, 6,000 probably means like a part-time
Pretty
position.
significant. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Quanice.
So what are we doing? Are we doing something different?
For cohort 6, we probably need to look at the.
Patrick, do you mind scrolling back to the left so we can see the column with the budget sizes?
Yeah.
So there are several organizations that have budgets under that $244,000. So in cohort 4, that was the cohort that we started applying the 10% rule.
Right.
So if we applied the same 10% rule to the organizations in cohort 6 that are under that $244,000 mark, would people be happy doing that?
It would give them more.
Quanice, do you think that would work?
Sorry, say that again. It was kind of.
No, you're fine. So with cohorts 4 and 5, they were the two cohorts that all had organizations with budgets under $244,000. That's where we started to apply the 10% rule. That if we were to apply the same 10% rule to the organizations in cohort 6 that have budgets under the same dollar figure, or if
we need to go over.
Yeah, because it sort of jumps. It looks as if like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 organizations with budgets under 373,000, and then the next budget size is 744.
There's some background. Sorry, I don't.
Phone on mute. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, I think that would be a good approach to it. Yeah, because in my mind, like service organizations are always the ones who get often the short end of the stick when it comes to funding in general from the field. So these are the people who are providing and making sure that our artists and arts organizations are sustaining. So I just want to make sure that we're supporting them as much as we can.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Because it's like a $350,000 gap between the 373 and then 715.
Yeah.
So could we say that for organizations in this cohort budgets at 373 or under, that we apply the 10% rule, and then for those that have budgets over the 373, that we apply the 20% rule?
Yeah, would that do it, Quanice?
Yeah, I think that's a good mean area. I feel like that's a good number to do it with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, super. We can do that.
Any other questions, comments, observations? I do have a general question. So in the future, for fiscal year 22, or for the next cycle of GOS, is this another, can we keep this in consideration for this cohort of service orgs? Because I just want to make sure, we're sustaining this over time as well. And so maybe the next cohort, it might be 500,000. So I just want to kind of make sure that we keep that in mind.
Yes, Quanice. And what is really interesting about this is that, some of the organizations that applied, last year they ended up in cohort 4. This year they may be in cohort 3. Right. We had one organization that they had a pretty significant increase to their budget because of a very large grant they received through another entity. And so they jumped from cohort 3 to cohort 1. So that's why it's hard to, when we're comparing from year to year, we also have to take into account the number of applications that were in their cohort in the previous year, as opposed to just looking at the ranking number. So yeah, we try to, as I said, our goal is to help create some stability. And that's one of the reasons Haran mentioned the intent to fund letters. Usually we push these intent to fund letters out the door at the end of April, which is a good 5 months ahead of the award notification date on October 1st. And the reason we do that is we want to help organizations plan. So as they move into new fiscal years, they have a sense of, I usually say to people, God willing and the creek don't rise come October 1st, the plan is that we fund them in X amount. So
Yeah, and I think next year, we're going to take a separate look, of course, with this with FY22, and we want everybody to do just what Tony's did, and that's look at it in depth and point out to us anything that needs to be tweaked.
Yeah,
and
that's
thank
a really
you.
good catch.
Thank you so much to the Grants Committee. Yeah, as Gretchen said, we had 3 meetings, and it was really helpful for me in particular, you know, with the feedback and the suggested changes folks made.
So if there are no more questions, I guess I need to make a recommendation from the committee.
Yeah, and then I'll call the roll call.
Okay. Due to the continuing economic impact and hardships caused by the ongoing COVID-19 public health emergency, the Grants Committee recommends the following resolution be adopted. Resolved that the Commission award funding to each of the 111 eligible applicants to the FY21 General Operating Support Grant Program in accordance with the proposed award amount attached to the committee's report for a combined total of $5,707,603. Madam Chairperson, on behalf of the committee, I move the adoption of the resolution just read.
I don't think we have to have seconded.
No, just need to vote.
Yeah, so I'll call Alma,
Yes.
Gretchen,
Yes.
Marianne,
Yes.
Jose,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Rona,
Yes.
Cece,
Yes.
Clarice,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Cora,
Yes. Hi, Stacy.
I vote yes. And has Kimber or Natalie or Maria joined us? If so, want to speak up? Okay, well, that's unanimous for everyone who's on the call. So thank you very much. So that's terrific. I know that the organizations are dying to get that letter of intent, so I'm glad that can go out. Thank you. There's no other business. So with that, we're adjourned. See you soon. Bye.
Amen.
Thank
so
you.
much. Hi, Ms. Cora.
We'll let you know if we have more money to give away.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations, David.
Thank you, David. Good job.
Congratulations, David. Thank you, Gretchen.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank everyone.